Hi guys, this is Fairy AniRecaps here. Today I will recap a sci-fi anime called Summertime Render. This is Shinpei, who was dreaming about his childhood friend, Oshio. He wakes up in a fairy shouting her name, and pumps into a busty lady. He arrives at his hometown, Wakayama Island, after 2 years away in Tokyo, to attend Kufoni Oshio's funeral, his childhood friend. Then, at the dock, Kufoni Mio came to see him upon arriving, but she couldn't stop her cycle and fell in the ocean. We later know that, 10 years ago, Shinpei lost his parents and the Kufoni family adopted him. Shinpei hears a standby lady mentioning that Dr. Hishigata performed an autopsy on Oshio's body. And suddenly, a strange flash appears. And then So, who is the son of Dr. Hishigata, hugs Shinpei and apologizes to him, because he couldn't save Oshio from drowning. Shinpei asks him about the autopsy, but So shows him Kobayakawa Shiori, who Oshio got swept away saving her, and since the accident, she went on silent mode. So promised he will give him a call at night to tell him more details. At night, So told him that they found strangling marks on Oshio's neck, and the police closed the case as accident, because there was no clear evidence of murder. Then Mio knocks on the door, and gives Shinpei the necklace that Oshio was wearing. The next day, they reopen the restaurant, and the police officer whose name is Tatsumura Tetsu, and he is a relative of the Kufoni family, tells them that the Kobayakawas have vanished this morning. Mio started shaking and went running outside, and Shinpei went after her. Mio tells Shinpei that Shiori had been acting strange since she saw someone looking like her in the mountain. Then a haunter called Nizu tells them that this is called a shadow, and they say, if anyone got afflicted by the shadow, will see himself and gets killed by his shadow, then it will take his form and kills his family. And according to the legend, who gets afflicted must go to Hiriko Shrine to get cleansed. Mio tells Shinpei that 3 days before Oshio died, they saw her shadow. Things get serious, and they went to the shrine. While the shrine was empty, Mio notices Shiori, watching them through the bushes. They go after her, then they hear a gunshot. Shinpei finds the hot lady, sitting and bleeding, then Mio went to get help, while the lady tried to say something to Shinpei, and suddenly a bullet goes through her head. Out of shock, he looks and finds Mio is being held at gunpoint blank, by another Mio. And in a shocking moment, the shadow shoots Mio, and then shoots Shinpei. Shinpei wakes up bumping into the busty lady again. Being confused, he checks the phone, to find that the date is July 22nd, while he was in July 23rd he thought all this was a dream, because he reads a novel, by Nagumo Ryunosuke, that has the same plot. Shinpei later finds himself going through the same events, that he saw in the dream. This time, Shinpei finds that the brake wire of Mio's cycle is intentionally damaged. At night, he went outside of the house thinking about all that's happening, and while sitting on the beach, he hears Tatsumura talking, and the one he was talking to was Mio in her school uniform. Shinpei immediately knew that this is not Mio, it's her shadow. The shadow killed Tetsu by a knife, then it copied his body by light. It was the same light that was in the funeral. And then Tetsu's copy made the body disappear, but it left a stain on the ground. While Shinpei was sitting quietly and terrified, So called him on the phone, and then he got discovered by them, and got stabbed in the neck. He gets back at the dock, and this time he tried to stop Mio from falling in the ocean, but he got thrown instead. And later, we see the busty lady hanging from a tree. She was recording her voice for someone, while watching Shiori. Later at night, Shinpei calls Tetsu and gives him a false report, so he wouldn't get killed by Mio's shadow. He messaged So that he will call him tomorrow, and connected the phone to an external battery, and placed it outside, so he could film Mio's shadow and to have an evidence. He goes inside and looks in the mirror, and find that he has an eye with a different color, but he didn't know the reason. The next day, Shinpei shows Mio the recording, and just how the shadow kept staring at the house while holding a knife. He asked her about the shadows, and told her about Oshio's shadow, which might be the one who killed her sister. Shinpei went to check on Shiori by himself, to keep Mio out of danger. He found the Kobayakawa shop closed, and then he goes to check the house with their neighbor, Shiumi. Upon entering, he finds a cold dinner, and 2 adult-sized stain marks on the floor. He notices the strange damage on the floor, and goes upstairs to search for Shiori. Suddenly, there was a flashlight, and then he finds that Shiori was a shadow from the start. She made him a copy, but when Shiumi came upstairs, Shiori's shadow escaped through the toilet window. Shinpei kept searching for the lady that got shot in the woods. After not finding her, he went to the restaurant, and then met with Tetsu, who was the original, because Shinpei saved him by sending him yesterday to a false report. Tetsu gives Shinpei Oshio's phone, which she entrusted to him the day before she died, as if she knew something would happen to her. Meanwhile, So enters the restaurant, and Shinpei tells him everything. Now, without knowing the difference between humans and shadows, the suspicion starts to kick in. They decided to go to the shrine in the next day at the summer festival and speak with the priest, Karakiri. Then they choose a password to say when they meet again, to make sure of their identities. The next day, Shinpei tried to open the phone, but he couldn't. Then So, Toki and Mio came in wearing yukatas to go to the festival. While they are in the festival, we know that So is feeling for Mio, and while they were chatting about love interests, Shinpei notices a glimpse of Oshio's hair, then he leaves the group to chase after her. Finally, he arrives at the beach, and to his surprise, he finds Oshio standing in the ocean, and then she looks at him. Oshio approaches Shinpei and hugs him. They fall on the ground, and Shinpei is shocked and can't believe his eyes. He sees the necklace around her neck, and knows that she is a shadow. Oshio finds that her memory is a bit foggy, but she cries and confesses her love to Shinpei, as her last wish was to see him again. She looks at the fireworks and realizes that it's the summer festival. Then she goes to the festival, and Shinpei drags her away of everyone's sight. Mio's shadow was walking in the festival and saw them. Shinpei found that Oshio's shadow has all the memories from when they were children, except the memories of her dying moments. Shinpei leaves Oshio telling her not to move until the festival is over, then he goes to see the ceremony with the group. After the ceremony, So confessed his love to Mio in front of everyone, but Mio turned him down. Then Oshio appeared with her stupid disguise, and everyone was shocked, but Mio told her that she is a monster, and she gave her a death glare. Shinpei holds Oshio very painfully, and reveals himself as a shadow, despite telling the password they agreed about. We go back 10 minutes, when the real Shinpei was going to meet the group, he pumps into Mio's shadow. While she was in carnage mode, she grabbed him by his neck, and then he notices that she has strength that can't be compared to normal human. She held him to the ground, while his own shadow copied his memories, including the password. She was about to kill him, but his shadow stops her. It tells her about his ability to go back in time, so he might be a hindrance to them. His shadow leaves, while telling him that he failed to protect anyone, and Mio's shadow breaks his arm, while he was trying to escape her grip. She tells him that her mother will soon awaken, and suddenly she gets shot in the head by the lady from the ferry. Mio's shadow appeared behind the lady's back to stab her, but she has good reflexes. She dodged her attack while shooting at the shadow on the ground, which killed the shadow for good. The lady introduced herself to Shinpei as Nagumo Ryunosuke, and she came to save him, but she was late. She tells him that the shadow is known by its flat form on the ground. If he tried to step on it, only the shadow will move to avoid being stepped on, because that's their true form, and also their weakness. The shadows scan the humans by light, to copy their data, and then they consume them, leaving stains on the ground. Suddenly, a huge flash appears up in the shrine, but when they arrive they find everyone is massacred, and there was a huge shadow that killed Takiko. Shinpei finds So got killed by his shadow protecting Mio. Nagumo shot the shadow's hand to save Mio, but then she got shot by the big shadow in front of them. Shinpei is in a shock of the amount of corpses and blood in the area. His mind freezes and he started counting all the shadows in the area. The big shadow grabs Shinpei, telling him that he has the eye of his mother, which she lost long ago, and he can control time with this eye. The big shadow started the ceremony, and Mio got consumed while she was trying to reach Shinpei. The other shadows unite with the big one, who offer all the corpses to his mother. Then she appears in the sky, a red glowing figure, and the shadows start to engulf the whole island, consuming the other humans. We see Dr. Hishigata, So's father, speaking with a sickened shadow. Meanwhile, Nagumo tells Shinpei that if she believed the message early, she could have prevented everything. Then Shinpei asks her to shoot him, because he can get back to July 22nd. The big shadow tried to stop her, but Oshio's shadow came out of the ground and punched him, opening the way for Nagumo to shoot Shinpei. She shoots Shinpei while telling him to search for her and say his name. Before Shinpei went back in time, he was watching the island from above, but when he approached the mother, she looked at him with a surprised look on her face. Then he gets dragged in time, and this time he hears Oshio, telling him that this power is limited. Shinpei gets back to the moment after he fell in the ocean saving Mio. This means that the save point for his loop keeps moving forward, and at some point, he will get back in time, after everyone is dead. Now we see the events from Nagumo's viewpoint. Despite seeing Shinpei and Mio, she thought that Ajiro Shinpei is a different person. She saw a banner about Kufoni Oshio's funeral, and goes to attend it. Karakiri talks to her as she has been in Tokyo for 14 years without visiting the island, but they know her by the name Minakata Hizuru. She meets Alan, and narrates that Alan's wife passed away after giving birth to Mio, and Alan would take care of the restaurant, and the customers would help him with the two girls, and Hizuru knew the two girls from that time. Hizuru learned from Alan that Ajiro Shinpei is the one she saw on the ferry, and she went outside quickly so that she avoids him. But Alan stops her, and he tells her about the strangling marks on Oshio's neck. He also mentions that her death reminds him of Ryunosuke's death 14 years ago. Hizuru immediately goes to open the casket, and she inspects Oshio's body to find that the marks had been covered by a nurse that works at Hishigata Clinic. She asks Alan if his daughter saw someone that looks like her before she died, but he didn't know anything. Asaka, an old friend of Hizuru, and also she is Shiori's mother. She approaches Hizuru and started crying about Oshio, but Hizuru was enraged by the fact that she is acting and she is already a shadow. She went to speak with Nizu the hunter, and she told him that all the Kobayakawas are shadows. Hizuru cries about Shiori and Oshio, and she gave Nizu a phone. If it rang he would tell her. Meanwhile Shinpei realizes that the Kobayakawas are all shadows. He also knew that Mio was copied before July 22nd. Later, Shinpei was asking about Hizuru, and Alan gave him a contact note that Hizuru gave him, but he couldn't understand it. But when Shinpei saw it, he knew this code is from the books that Nagumo wrote. Shinpei calls the phone, and Nizu answered his call, and after talking with him, he told him to go back to the funeral hall alone. Meanwhile, Hizuru killed Alan's shadow after it was targeting him in the bathroom. Nizu shoots Shinpei's shadow on the ground to make sure he is human, then he tells him that the code he solved can only be solved by someone who knows that Hizuru is Ryunosuke, and that would only be Nizu and Hizuru herself, so if someone called the phone, it means that it's a shadow which copied Hizuru's memory. When Shinpei meets Nagumo, his fan switch flips on, asking for her autograph. After thinking about his case, Hizuru theorized that Shinpei is a time traveler, and of course she is right. And that's the end of the video. Please tell me your opinion, and like the video if you want part 2 of the anime. Take care, and watch other interesting videos.